That just goes to show you the impact and the impression that she's had on the students and the community in Chattahoochee. She's done a wonderful job, and the scores have grown since she's there. So I think this is very valuable. All right. Our second principal of the year at the middle school level is Mr. Christopher Shirley. And Mr. Shirley is the winner twice in a row. In the 1920 year, he was nominated and named principal of the year at that level because he had the highest test score in the parish at that time. He took over as principal in Stevensville. The scores had grown tremendously the year before under the previous principal. He takes over and they continue to grow. The school is very well run. It's quiet. When you're the principal at a big school, you have a lot of people helping you. When you're the principal at a small school, you're the curriculum coordinator, you're the librarian, you do all the bus duty. Everything falls on the principal. So big or small, you're still a busy person. This year, as you remember from earlier in the year, Stevensville Elementary was also named as a Blue Ribbon School, National Blue Ribbon School. So we felt it was fitting for him, even though he won it last year, for him to win it again this year. Well deserved. He's done a fine job at the school, and congratulations. If you want to hold one, I'll hold the other. Okay, and our last principal, well, not last. Okay. For the 2021 school year, at the primary level, our principal of the year this year is Miss Lisa Sylvester. Now, Miss Lisa was appointed a couple of years ago at St. Martinville Primary. She had some very big shoes to fill because she replaced Miss Sarah Allen, who had taken the school a long way. The school had grown, very well-run school. Miss Lisa has stepped in and you've had a seamless transition. She's also, like all principals, had to deal with issues dealing with COVID, so all these challenges that everybody's faced, and she stood the test and done a fine job. So, and when somebody takes over, she's been there for 2 years now, and very little turnover at the school. That's a good sign right there too. Change in leadership, but not much change in the faculty. You have a stable faculty, and you've kept them there, and you've done a great job. Thank you. Okay, last but not least, we have another person who was named 2 years in a row. Okay. During the 1920 school year, Mr. Kevin Dugal was named principal of the year because as the high school principal, he had the most growth in the parish out of all the high schools. So the executive staff determined that he was deserving of that. And this year, his name came up again as being deserving of it. Now, we have all of our principals are good, so I don't want that to sound like they're not, because they are all good, very good. But Mr. Dugal was again selected this year. St. Martinville High School is a very well-run school. It's quiet. You walk around there down the halls, and sometimes you can't even tell that a class is changing. He and the team he has built at his school have accomplished that. So, Mr. Dugan, I'm proud of you. Very good job. Okay, and I believe this is our last award for tonight. Okay, every month, Southern Scripps pays for someone to receive the plaque for Employee of the Month. As I mentioned earlier, when talking about one of the principals, everybody's undergone a tremendous amount of stress and work and heartache and worry because of COVID. One of the results of COVID is that we have a lot of kids on virtual. We started out with over 3,200 kids. The last count I got from Ms. LeBlanc was somewhere around 1,300 to 1,400 kids. And with us going back to full in-person instruction, that number's kind of ebbed and flowed a little bit because some people are putting their children back in to attending school, and some others are pulling them out. I think it's come out to be a wash. But the virtual facilitators, went from supervising a couple of hundred kids to supervising, over 1,000 kids. They help out with a lot of things. They're busy. They have to communicate with parents. They have a very big task on their hands. You know, and I say that, and I don't say it lightly, because everybody in this environment has a big task on their hands. We can only recognize one person or one group tonight. So tonight, our employee of the month are the virtual facilitators at our virtual school, Ms. Karen DuPont, Mr. Todd Angel, and Ms. Ashley Green. And by the way, all three of them are new to the program. We had 2 people in the program before, and they retired at different times last year. So all 3 of them are brand new to the program. So not only did they start a new job, but they started it during COVID. So guys all have done a wonderful job.
Thank you.
Thank you. President, that completes our acclamation.
Any deletion of?
Yes, sir. I have one addition. I'd like to add an item to executive session to consider and or approve a recommendation from legal counsel on a settlement matter.
That would be item D, you need a vote on that, to add that item to the, yes.
Yeah, just because we're required by law, the matter is entitled Jamal Roy versus St. Martin Parish School Board, docket number 88980 of the 16th JDC Parish of St. Martin.
All in favor, add to the agenda? Aye. And nay, motion carries. That'd be item on the executive session, item D. Consent agenda. Anybody have a problem with consent agenda?
Motion to accept consent agenda.
Motion by Mr. Potteet, second by Mr. Abel, all in favor? Aye. And nay, motion carries. Finance Committee recommendation. Consider and recommend action with regard to authorizing Thomas C. Associates to accept proposal for generator department. Well, we just went through all that.
Motion to accept,
Item A through D.
motion to accept the, finance committee recommendation.
All right, now, motion by Mr. Potteet,
Second.
second by Mr. Clayton. All in favor?
Aye.
And nays, motion carried. New business. Consider taking action with respect to adopt a resolution for the insurance taxable general obligation to refund bonds. And that would be that item you have in front of you. For 2021 St. Martin Parish School District, State of Louisiana, providing other matters in connecting therewith. Ms. Broussard?
I'm going to yield to Mr. Senator, to go recap, like.
Not sure exactly where to stand, but this is obviously a good news item. This is the refunding, and Steve Nosaka's here also. He's the financial advisor. He worked actively with the pricing of this refunding issue and bringing it to conclusion today. It's a refunding of the Series 2013 bond issue of the school board. As you know, as with your prior refinancings, all of the savings from this type of refinancing accrue to the benefit directly of the property taxpayers. It does not provide any additional funds for the school board, but it does save taxpayer monies. This is done with no extension of the debt and simply reducing the payments each year on the outstanding bonds. And again, all those savings to the property taxpayers. In connection with this refinancing, Standard & Poor's did confirm the A+ rating for the school board, which is an excellent bond rating. The superintendent, in case he worked diligently with the Standard & Poor's to maintain that rating. The savings, the net savings to the property taxpayers over $197,000. The interest rates on the outstanding bonds that were refinanced were up to 4.25%. 4.25%, that was reduced to 1.675%. The savings level for this refinancing is almost 4 times what the Louisiana State Bond Commission requires for economic refundings by political subdivisions and school boards. Very good result. If there's any questions, we'll be happy to answer them. The bonds have been sold pursuant to your prior authorization. The superintendent signed the bond purchase agreement. This is the confirming resolution setting forth all the details of that sale. If there's any questions, Steve and I will be happy to answer them.
Great job. Ask for motion to adopt.
Motion to accept.
Motion by Mr. Avon, second by Mr. Clee. All in favor?
Aye.
Any nays? Motion carried.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank y'all. Thank y'all.
Great job.
All right.
Keep it up. Bring it back.
Item D,
That's all I have.
consider approving changing the high school schedule from the full block schedule to the 7th period D. Mr. Blanchard.
Yeah, I was approached last year by high school principals of the idea of exploring going back to the 7th period day in the high schools. Right now, we're on a full off-year schedule. We take 4 classes in the fall and 4 in the spring. Most systems around us, just about everybody around us has reverted back to the 7th period day. There's research that indicates that it does help to improve your test scores. You have issues like with the 4x4 schedule, you start in August, and the students have a schedule, then you've got to do it again in January when the second semester starts. You have to test, EOC test in December, then you've got to EOC test again in May. We had an education committee meeting a couple of weeks ago where I allowed the principals to speak and present their case on it. I asked the principals, when we started discussing this, I told them I was not going to come to the board with it alone, that they had to want it, they had to ask for it, and they did. I also asked that they notify their faculties that this was coming up, and I told them they had. So I didn't want to keep it a secret. I asked them to make sure to discuss this, and that this is what you want. They came back to me again and said that this, we met a couple of times, and they were still on board with doing it. So we worked out a schedule for kids to go to the 7th period day and still be able to go to the career center and earn their credits there, participate in welding and electrical and other things. So our recommendation, mine and the high school principals together, is that we, next year, we would start next August, go to a 7th period school. Yes, sir.
Question, and I apologize for not coming to the education committee meeting, but one of the questions that I have is, and I'm in favor of it, but I just want to know, right now, we have to have 27 Carnegie units. Is it no 24? Okay. Are they gonna be able to make these 24? You know, even though they struggle. Okay. The other thing is that with block, we added 2 teachers per high school. Everybody, when the test scores came around, this is just the talk in the system, in the district, that the high schools were carrying our test scores. That's what the word was. I would like to see them hold on to those 2 teachers, maybe like for a year or whenever, you know, kind of phase them out and not just kind of shop them all at once. That's just a suggestion. And I've talked to you about it. Yeah. Other than that, I mean, I don't know how we went I know how we went the box schedule. It's very much similar to working your Monday, Wednesday, Fridays, or your Tuesday, Thursdays in college. And for high school, I don't know how people did it for all these years, but I prefer the old fashioned, except in the traditional schedule. That was just me.
Mr. Eber brought up a good point, which I left out. The high schools do have 2 additional people above their MFP. So during the transition period, what I was gonna recommend is you give them the 2 people next year, the following year, they go down to 1, and the 3rd year, they're straight MFP allocation. That way it gives them some time to adjust. You did mention something about the credits. You know, there's pluses and minuses to everything that you do. On a 4x4 schedule, over a 4-year period, a student can earn 32 Carnegie. So it's 8 more than they need to graduate. So if they have opportunities to fail, we take something, or we can take extra courses and stuff. On a 7-period day, they're gonna be able to earn 28, so it's 4 more than they would normally have. So they can mess up on a course, they can fail, they can retake it. We also have a virtual program. We have credit recovery that we didn't have when you and I were in high school. You failed and you failed and you went to summer school.
And I guess that's what I'm still thinking, but when you said virtual, I said,
So we do have options that allow the student to stay on schedule. And sports was a concern in this also. What happens right now with the kid that, let's say, wants to play baseball or football, a lot of the coaches want them in last hour of PE or last period of PE in fall and spring because they're either practicing for the sport one semester or they're conditioning the other semester. So a lot of these kids were taking 8 PEs and then having trouble taking some of the other required courses. Or they couldn't go to the career center because they were forced to take all those academic courses required for graduation. Under a 7-period day, they're only going to be taking 1 PE a year. It's all year long. And the schedule we're working on with the career center, if a kid wants to go into that, choose that path, they can go to the career center in the morning or at midday and still be back for their afternoon sports. So sports won't limit them going to career center or the other way around. So there's some advantages to this
motion to accept?
All right, but.
Unless somebody else had it.
You second. But, it would need to change from 4x4 to go to the regular 7-period schedule. They keep the 2 seasons, phase it out over a period of 2 years.
Correct.
Motion and a second by Ms. Vito, second by Mr. Abel, all in favor? And the nays, motion carried. Consider approve extended COBRA leave policy or replace and it expired December 3rd, 2020.
Okay, you may remember that last year when COVID hit, the president put a policy in place that allowed employees to have COVID leave and there were certain other caveats in there. Each person got 10 days of COVID leave. That expired on December 31st. The law was renewed and somehow this got left out of it. Every district around us has extended it. We're not giving the employees an additional 10 days, but if they haven't used their 10 days, the 10 days will be there until June 31st, till the end of the year. I'm recommending that we follow suit with the other districts and approve the extension.
One question. Are we having an abuse with certain employees, yes or no, that would take the 10 days and then all of a sudden they'll, use their sick days or whatever? Or,
No, not,
because I see that in the work environment, some people say, well, I was around such and such, I'm taking 10 days off and they'll work. Now, our teachers don't have the opportunity to work overtime. In our world, they do, and they abuse they'll cap out on the overtime and then take a week off and say, like I never missed a check.
I'm not noticing that here. We are having to quarantine people. Luckily, most of the people, whether it's student or teacher, that we are having to quarantine are not testing positive. So, but I'm recommending it. I think it's the right thing to do for the employees and everybody else around us has done it.
Motion by Ms. Vito, and second by Ms. Johnson, all in favor? And the nays, motion carried. Consider approve the list of projects to be completed in the city and San Juan area.
Move to accept?
Second. Motion by Mr. Davis, second by Mr. Potteet, all in favor? And the nays, motion carried.
I have one thing, that was brought to our attention. At the high school football field, the telephone poles, they had wood benches that got into them, and they're not gonna be safe forever. We need to look into that.
That was on the original list. I had Mr. Fugely and Ms. Vital just pointed it out to me. I think it was a second page to the same one for the list, and I just didn't include it in here. But the telephone poles were a high priority because of the
Safety issue, and cost, if you drop all them lights down, it's a whole lot of money.
That's correct. Correct. So it is on the list. So I think just got cut off on the second page.
All right.
They will still be able to add some more stuff to the list.
Right, if something comes up, it's a proposed list, and of course, like with anything, the board has the right to delete something or add something if there's a greater need somewhere.
I feel we need to prioritize everything and make sure we get the things that need to be done first. And then those other deals, we'll catch them as we can. We can still have fun.
Keep in mind that what we're gonna do is, we're gonna start with those that are priorities that we discussed in our area meeting.
Right.
And the board will have final approval on the project and its cost before we move forward with actually doing it.
Mr. Blanchard, question, and Steve just reminded me of something. These projects that, I'm just use Stetch Elementary cafeteria, the roof. Okay, the hurricane came and basically, why that roof wasn't replaced, got on, while the roofings were going on. That's why we need to if ever y'all in another bond, address your own certain issue, because I'm sure everybody has that. I know like Catahoula had some air conditioning issues and things like that, but the point is, are we trying to get money back from FEMA for these?
We did, Mr. Darcell,
We made a claim.
Yeah.
We made a
Did
claim.
we get anything back, or is it just?
We haven't heard anything. We submitted everything over
Okay.
what the intent is, if we get, let's say on that particular roof, if we spend Cecilia area interest money on that roof and then get money back from FEMA, well, whatever part of that money that was for the Cecilia roof, we go back into the Cecilia area. The same thing in other areas of the parish. If FEMA reimburses us for something that we paid for, we put it back into that area for reallocation.
I just never actually also, and I figured you did that, just.
So that was done through the sheriff's office, Office of Homeland Security. They sent us some information. Mr. Darcell took care of that.
Okay, moving on to item E, basically the same things for the Broadbridge area, with the exception of Broadbridge High School. It's intended bid or cost estimate.
Who takes that?
Second, moved by Mr. Amen, second by Mr. Norio. All in favor? Any nays? Motion carries. Now, Broadbridge, I just have a question.
Sir.
Okay, if it comes at that estimate cost, we approve it.
Well, I'm gonna present the
Right.
cost to the Broadbridge area board members and we'll direct on it once we see.
Consider approve the low bid for lease Bell River area property.
Okay, that should be high. Should, yes, I was getting ready to say, that shouldn't say highest bid.
Oh,
When you're working with, sometimes you're looking for the lowest. Okay, this one right here, I did not put it on the consent agenda because this is a little bit different type of lease. If you remember several months ago, we leased some property to Mr. Morgan Landry. He's actually a retired newspaper guy in the airport, Bell River area. He leased the side of the levee, both sides of the levee, to put some cattle or something like that on, and some horses. And he called back and he asked to lease another piece. If you look at the little maps that he has included here, that's the same stretch of land where all of our campsites are at. And what he's asking to lease is most of the remaining land in that area that's along that road, that's part of our section 16 property. And if you read his letter, it's not a campsite lease. He does want to put a place to park his houseboat. But he also, he's retired and he wants to go out there. And as you see in the letter, the rabbit population has disappeared due to storms and high waters. And he wants to try to do some things on that strip of wooded area between the road and the water to try to reestablish that population. And also raising ducks in the water in that area. So we presented a requested. So because it's a different type of lease, I wanted you guys to know what it was about. It's not an ag lease, but it's also not a campsite lease. But he requested to lease it, so. And his bid was $600 per year for that strip.
What were you saying, there are other camps in that area, so it kind of eliminate the possibility of
Right.
camps?
Right, you probably wouldn't be able to put many more camps, if any, at all in
Are these
the.
people leasing from us that have camps?
The people that already have the camps are leasing, and what he wants does not include that.
Right.
This is the next strip of land over. There's a section 16 that is half inside the basin, half up. The levee actually cuts it corner to corner. And then there's a road that passes along the levee there, and there's a narrow strip of land between the road and the water. And that's where those campsites are at. And there's another strip of land, maybe a half a mile, quarter of a mile long, that he would want us to do this little project with him and his son.
And how does this work, a yearly lease?
It's a 10-year lease.
10-year lease.
It's a 10-year lease, it's a big lease every year, you have to put an average of $1,000 per year of improvements onto the property. If you do that, then in 10 years, you're eligible to request a review.
Are there any other requests for campsites?
I get calls from time to time from people that request campsites. Most of the calls I get regards to the property are people that want to get a hunting lease, and we don't do hunting leases. The board has adopted an act that has decided that we would prefer to leave the section 16 properties that are available from and open to the public for people who may not be able to afford to join a hunting club or go on these big hunting trips. So we have 2 agricultural leases and 16 or 17 or 18 campsite leases. So what he's asking for, I have this map, the same maps you
I
have.
didn't look at it, but, so that means there will be no more campsites after that, is what you're telling me.
Not on this strip right here, people would have to request one on a different piece of property.
We have, was that similar to that?
No, most of the others are not accessible by road.
And no one else has requested for a campsite?
I have had some calls, I just haven't gotten a call back.
It seems like we're locking out, 10 years is a long time.
And that's the reason I wanted to present it, so that everybody would understand what it is. If you lease it to him, we might be able to do a couple more campsite leases, and then he'd have the rest of it locked in for 10 years.
Right.
So
How many acres is that?
acreage wise, I'm not sure because it's kind of hard to judge from the map, but the whole section is 640 acres, and this is a real small strip, 60, 70, 80 acres maybe.
That's what he wants to,
And it's not an ag lease, he's not even making money. With an agricultural lease, usually the person is fishing crawfish or growing a crop, they make money on it, and they pay you according to what they make. This is something different, he's a retired guy, and I think this is just, he told me he does this with his grandchildren, and he's something he wants to try to do out there. So,
I think it's a good thing, but I think we eliminated the whole general public that would want to have a camp there. I don't know if that's a good thing to tie it up for 10 years.
We
It's
ever
just
had camps
way
on
out
that
there.
property?
I'm sorry,
We ever had some camps on that property?
not on the PCs wanting to lease, we had camps a little bit before.
19, I think you said.
Yeah, I don't know the exact number, it's
About-
17, 18, 19, something like that.
So you kind of wouldn't have any place for growth for other people that would want to have a camp, Kind of limit it to one person.
I'm pretty sure we can put in that if somebody wants to lease an acre, and which we probably ain't gonna get nobody, we didn't have nobody over the last 20, 30 years.
We've had a few, not a lot, but we've had 3
That
or 4.
wanted to lease a piece of property on that particular section.
In fact, remember Mr. Rawls, that used to be the principal at Stephenville Elementary? About 4 years ago, he leased a piece, he's got, that's actually his house.
Right.
So,
And what are the campsite leases?
most of them are about $400 a year.
And they have to do
The
improvements?
same thing, right, it's the same, an average of $1,000 per year with 10 years.
Well, I just feel that if we locking ourselves in, I mean, I'm sure it's a good thing what he wants to do, but I'd like to see our other people get a chance to have a camp. Maybe reconsider,
you can
maybe
take,
split
you
it
can
or
table
cut
it,
it
or
back.
you can make a motion. Table or make a motion. Or,
What
unless you have.
what I can do is this, I can call him back, to the board's position, which I'm thinking of, and ask him if he would consider maybe cutting his request in half.
That way we'd still have some property left over, somebody else would
We'll
want
do
to
that,
camp.
that's certainly not a problem.
Or allow him to go ahead and utilize it like he wants to do until somebody wants it for lease.
I don't know if we can do that once we give him a lease.
Well, what I'm saying is he allow him to use the truck though until somebody else wants to lease it.
How about calling him back and seeing if he'd want at least maybe half of the
Half of it,
area he's
yeah.
talking about, and allow him to use the other half until someone else requests it?
That's what I'm talking.
Because I have a feeling what he's gonna be doing is going on there, building some of those structures to provide cover for those animals, maybe restocking it with some natural stock from wildlife and fisheries or something like that, and then try to get it to be populated and spread out over the area. Kind of a conservation type effort. I can certainly call him back and tell him that's what tell him your position,
Yeah.
not wanting to lock it all out for other people. And perhaps he'd be willing to agree to something like that.
That is a lot of information.
It is, and again, which is why I wanted a thorough explanation, so that, because usually campsite use, you don't have a lot of discussion. You know, they just give it 100 by 100 and they go to camp and then they give it their rent.
Yeah, if you could get half of it and use the other half, that way if someone would want to use the camp,
I'll get in touch with Mr. Landry.
see if he can do that.
So, we asked him to table that.
Table.
Mr. Blanchard come back.
Table it until Mr. Blanchard does like we can move. He gets that information.
Second by Mr. Dennis, all in favor?
Aye.
Any nay? Motion carries. Motion to go in the executive session. Second.
I'm gonna call Mr.
Okay. That's the end.
To read it,
Here,
she said there's one missing form, but she emailed.
okay.
Put it up. We can go over that tomorrow, make sure it's correct.
Yeah, I'm gonna send it to the attorney because I wanna make sure that they have the verbiage that's on the contract. Holding to all the rest of the stuff.
Tomorrow, see, if you don't have it in email, I'll make us copies. I'll scan it so you have a copy before you send it.
Cause it looks like it's their regular verbiage.
Okay.
Yeah, see, I don't see anything, just perusing it, I don't see anything about the holding to the upstream, I mean, not the.
But I'm gonna check her email tomorrow.
Yeah.
If we don't have all of these, I'll scan it for her before we give it to them. We can tell them what email it to them. and I'll see it.
Yeah,
All right, well, I guess I'll do.
yep, that's done. That was it.
I guess we're doing our recording next month.
It didn't have, yeah, we need to fix it so we can do those charts and stuff for 'em. Oh, sorry.
No, you can keep it. I'll check it to them all.
Okay.
If I don't have it on email, I'll get it back and scan.
Okay, yeah, we need to make sure they have the, you know what I'm talking about, the whole steps on the RP about coming back up and stuff like that. Oh, shucks. Thank you. Does it sound better? What did she say?
I listen to it on the phone.